Today I'm just going to show you how to make some of these little weights, beanbag weights, which you can use either as toys with your children if you make them securely that the insides don't come out, or some people use them when they're cutting patterns out, which we will be doing in the future, so it might be useful to have them made in preparation. You put the pattern on top of the material, and then you can use a rotary blade cutter, which is a bit like a pizza cutter, but for material, and you don't need pins, so you just weigh the pattern down with these weights on each of the corners, and then you can just use the rotary cutter to cut the material out. I've added loops onto these so that you can loop them all together on another piece of ribbon. Another thing I've discovered you can use them for is a pincushion, which is quite good. So to start off, you need a piece of material that is double the length that it is wide. So the ones that I've made are 9 centimetres by 18 centimetres. You can either make a template, use a ruler and a rotary cutter, which is the whole point of these things. You'd make the template and put these on top of the template, and then you wouldn't have to use pins for the template, and then you would just cut all the way around. I'm going to draw with a pencil 9 by 18, but you could go 10 by 20 or you could go 8 by 16. It kind of depends on the size that you want. So I've got my piece of material. When I first did this, I did 6 in one go, and actually it was quite handy to be able to just do each part of the process once, but 6 times, if you know what I mean. So I did all the cutting out together, then I did all the ironing together, then I did all the sewing together, all the bits. I'm also going to cut a little tiny piece of ribbon to make these little loops that you can hang them from. You don't have to do this at all, but it's quite handy if you want to keep them together or be able to hang them up. Sometimes on t-shirts and tops they come with a piece of ribbon, so I always cut those off. So I always have loads of little bits of ribbon around. The pieces that I cut were about 9 or 10 centimetres long, so I'm just going to do that, and then I'm going to fold one of the long edges down by about 1/2 centimetre and iron it. So here we've got my piece of cut ribbon and my piece of material with the one edge folded down. What I'm going to do is fold it over in half, and then I'm going to, on the other long edge, place a folded bit of ribbon on the inside, because that's where the loop is going to end up. If you can do it so you can just see the top poking out the top. Whoops. The best thing to do is pin this. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to pin these 2 edges. So basically the ironed folded edge that you've done, don't pin. So hopefully you can see I've just pinned around these 2 edges, and I've pinned this piece of ribbon so that the 2 little ends are sticking out on the top, and I've tried to pin it down. And then what you want to do is, it doesn't matter too much about the ends where you started, turn it inside out, and put the seamed edge where you sewed in the middle of the other edge. You're making a little pyramid triangle. So then if you fill it with rice or lentils, I think, any kind of dry grain, obviously uncooked, that could be a bit grim, a bit mushy, and then if you fill it up, which I'll go and do, and as soon as it's as full as you can get it, just put 2 pins in the top, and I'll show you how to sew it up. So as you can see, I've filled it with rice. I'm going to try and pin it so that the seam is kind of open, and I'm going to try and open them up and then squash them against the centre of the other edge, and then I will pin the two sides. So to do a ladder stitch, I threaded my thread onto the needle. I'm just going to start at one end and then you are taking a tiny amount from one side on the inside of that join, and then go to the other side and take a little amount from that side, and then keep swapping sides. You have to make the stitches quite small because in this case we don't want the rice or lentils or whatever it is we've used to come out. So I'm just doing the last few stitches. Just make sure you pull it quite tightly at the corners to make it nice and straight, and then if you just do a number of stitches over and over each other just to sew it off, and there you have your little beanbag made, and you can either hang it up or hook it onto a longer piece of ribbon or string or whatever you wanted. I hope you enjoyed that, and good luck. We'd love to see pictures.